Hi, everyone. I'm Kristin O'Donnell. Welcome to Gentle Yoga. I want to thank Hands to Heart Center and Boston Public Library for having me teach today. And Hands to Heart Center Yoga for the People is a nonprofit organization that shares the healing practice of yoga with people affected by addiction, poverty, and trauma in Greater Boston. Hands to Heart Center would like to thank the Boston Public Library for partnering with us on this virtual project. Again, I'm Kristin O'Donnell. Feel free to let me know if you can hear me. And I'm excited for this practice. Feel free to find a seated or lying down shape. And if you have two blocks or two books, or if you have a blanket, feel free to grab that as well for this practice. In your own time, finding your seated or lying down shape. And maybe closing your eyes or keeping a soft gaze in front of you. Taking a few moments to notice your breathing, allowing yourself to be still, be aware, and notice what might be coming up for you. You might notice what your breath might be doing, noticing your inhales and exhales, how fast or slow your breath might be, or long or short. And please know that this is your practice. So you can follow along with me. I'll be here as a guide, or you can choose to move in any other way that you might like in your body. You can choose how you'd like to participate in this practice today. Maybe taking a few more breaths and possibly noticing your body, maybe noticing how your body is resting, whether you're seated or lying down. Maybe noticing how you are resting in this place. What might be resting on the mat? What might be resting in space? And noticing maybe if one side of your body feels the same as the other, or maybe they feel a little different from one another. Finding several breaths to start to notice your body. Notice you as you sit or lie down on your mat. And if you're lying down, maybe slowly starting to make your way to seated. And once you make your way to seated, if you're not already there, maybe slowly starting to add some movement into your head and neck. You might choose to move your head from side to side. Another choice might be to move your head up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. If you'd like, you might even choose to add some head circles, maybe moving your head in half head circles from left to right. Or another possibility might be to move your head in full head circles, bringing your head all the way around in a full head circle. If you chose full head circles, maybe doing a few in one direction, and in your own time, maybe reversing that direction, possibly going the opposite way. Finding any movement you might like in your head and neck, maybe taking another moment or two to experiment with any or all of those choices mentioned. Up and down, side to side, half or full circles. And in your own time, maybe slowly starting to bring your head back to center. If you'd like, you might choose to move your shoulders up towards your ears, and then in your own time, maybe lowering them back down. Possibly adding some circles into your shoulder movements. So maybe using your shoulders, moving them in circles up and around and down, or maybe moving them up and down in a straight motion. If you chose circles, maybe doing a few in both directions. making this movement as big or as small as you might like. Again, finding whatever movement might feel the best in your body in this moment. And whenever you're ready, you might start to lower your shoulders down, letting them rest. Maybe bringing your hands to rest on top of your shoulders and making this movement as big or as small as you might like. You might start to bring the elbows towards each other. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't. And in your own time, maybe starting to bring the elbows up so that they're pointing towards the ceiling. And then maybe reaching them towards your back. So you might not be able to point your elbows behind you, but allowing them to reach away from you and slowly lowering them back down. Maybe doing that 2 more times if you'd like, bringing your elbows towards each other, moving them up towards the ceiling, and then extending them back behind you, lowering them back down. Doing that 1 more time in your own time if you'd like, bringing your elbows towards each other, raising them up towards the ceiling, and then lowering them back down in your own time, letting that go whenever you're ready, maybe bringing your hands down to rest. And if you'd like, maybe starting to bring some movement in your upper body. You might start to move your upper body from side to side. Another choice might be to move forward and back. A third choice might be to add circles once again. So you might experiment with any or all of these choices, maybe moving your upper body from side to side, maybe moving forward and back, or if you'd like, possibly adding circles. And if you chose to add circular movements, maybe doing a few in one direction, and in your own time, maybe starting to reverse that direction, possibly going the opposite way. Finding any movement you might like in this place. Any movement I mentioned, or maybe finding a movement I haven't mentioned yet. Bringing yourself back to center whenever you're ready. And maybe bringing the right hand over to the right side of your body. Left hand reaching up overhead into a side stretch. Maybe pausing on this side for a few breaths. Possibly letting your shoulders relax. Letting them rest a little bit. And in your own time, coming back to center, maybe moving over to the other side. Left hand reaches down to the floor. Right hand might reach overhead. Pausing on this side if you'd like. Taking a few moments in this place. And in your own time, maybe coming back to center. If you'd like, possibly doing that 2 more times on both sides. Moving over to the right side, left hand reaches up overhead. Maybe pausing for a moment or two before coming back to center and moving over to the left side. Finding a moment to pause if you'd like, and maybe doing that 1 more in both directions. In your own time, moving to the right side, maybe pausing for a moment or two, and whenever you're ready, maybe coming through center and moving over to the left. Making your way back to center whenever you're ready. And maybe moving into a twist if you'd like. Maybe inhaling, reaching your arms up overhead. On your exhale, maybe twisting over to the right side. Right hand might reach behind you. Left hand might rest on your right knee. Inhale, maybe lengthening your spine nice and tall. And on your exhale, you might choose to twist a little bit more. Finding as big or as small of a twist in this place. Maybe inhaling, lengthening your spine, and maybe on each exhale, twisting a little bit more if you'd like. And then in your own time, coming back to center, maybe inhaling, you might reach the arms up overhead, and then exhale, possibly twisting over to the left side. Left hand reaches behind your back, right hand resting on your left knee, and maybe inhaling, lengthening your spine nice and tall, and maybe on each exhale, you might choose to twist a little bit more. Finding as much length as you can if you'd like, and then maybe twisting a little bit more into the shape, finding whatever works in your body. In your own time, inhaling, Maybe reaching the arms back up overhead, coming back to center, and then exhaling, bringing your hands down to rest. If you'd like, maybe starting to walk your hands forward into a forward fold. You might keep your back straight, keeping the spine tall, or you might choose to curve your lower back, maybe bringing your head down towards the floor. Finding as big or as small of a forward fold as you might like, and maybe pausing, or if you'd like, you might choose to add some movement, maybe walking your hands back to seated and in your own time, walking them forward. Finding movement or stillness in this forward fold shape. Taking another moment or two to experiment. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, slowly starting to bring yourself back to seated. If you'd like, maybe moving into a back bend, you might reach your hands behind your back, maybe inhaling, lifting the head and chest up towards the ceiling, making this as big or as small as you might like, keeping the neck elongated. Taking a breath or two, possibly, and in your own time, slowly bringing your head and chest back to center, maybe bringing your arms back to center. If you'd like, maybe starting to bring your hands and knees to the mat into your table shape. If you have a blanket and would like to cushion your knees a little bit, feel free to bring a blanket or a cushion to your mat, and maybe bringing your hands and knees to the mat. Wrists are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips, and maybe moving into a few cat cows whenever you'd like. Maybe inhaling, head and chest, look up into cow. Maybe pausing in this shape for a moment if you'd like. And in your own time, exhaling, lowering your head down, maybe curving your lower back up towards the ceiling into your cat shape. Choosing to move back and forth from cow to cat if you'd like. Maybe inhale, head and chest come up. And maybe on the exhale, lowering your head down and curving your lower back up. Finding movement, maybe moving back and forth from one shape to the other. Or if you'd like, you might choose to pause in one shape, maybe finding a breath or two in that pause before finding your movement once again. So if you'd like, experimenting with movement or stillness and moving in one or both of the shapes. Listening to your body if you'd like. And then wherever you are, maybe doing one or two more movements if you'd like, before making your way back to neutral. In your own time, maybe extending your right leg behind you. You might press your right toes into the mat. And if you'd like, possibly rocking forward and back gently. Maybe noticing a stretch in your right foot, maybe in your calf. Coming back to center whenever you're ready. And one choice might be to lift the right leg hip height, maybe pausing here. You might keep your core engaged, maybe looking down, keeping your spine in line with your head. And if you'd like, you might choose to add the left arm. So maybe extending the left arm out in front. So finding either shape, you might extend the arm and leg, or you might extend the leg by itself. Pausing in this place for a moment or two, and whenever you're ready, lowering the leg, and if you raised it, the arm back down to the floor. In your own time, moving into the other side, extending the left leg behind you, pressing the left toes into the mat, and maybe gently rocking forward and back in your own time. Noticing how this feels in your left foot, maybe in your calf. Moving back to center whenever you're ready, and possibly lifting the left leg hip height, maybe pausing in this shape, keeping your core engaged, gaze is looking down to the mat, keeping your head in line with your spine. And if you'd like, maybe choosing to extend the right arm out in front. Finding whichever shape feels right for you, maybe the arm and leg are extended, maybe the leg is extended by itself. Taking a moment or two in this side of the shape, and whenever you're ready, lowering your left leg back down to the floor. If you'd like, maybe starting to sit your hips back on your feet and maybe bringing your hands interlaced. You might either bring the palms from side to side or maybe moving your hands in figure 8 movements. Working the wrists out a little bit from that table shape. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, bringing your hands and knees back to the mat. We'll do one more variation of those sunbird movements. In your own time, extending your right leg, bringing the right toes to press into the mat, and bringing that right leg hip height once again. If you'd like, you might choose to add movement in this shape. Maybe inhale, extend the leg away from you. And on the exhale, maybe bringing the knee in towards your chest. Inhale, extend, and exhale, maybe bringing the knee in towards your chest. If you'd like, you might extend the left arm as well. So maybe extending the left arm. Inhale, extend, arm and leg reach away from each other. Exhale, maybe bringing your knee towards your elbow. So finding any movement you might like in this shape. You might be moving your arm and leg towards each other, or maybe bringing the leg in towards your chest. Taking a few moments on this side of the shape. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe doing one more movement before making your way back to the floor. Hands and knees make their way back to the floor. Finding the other side whenever you're ready. Extending your left leg behind you, maybe pressing the left toes into the floor. And in your own time, bringing your left leg hip height. Maybe pausing in this shape. Inhale, extending your leg away from you. Exhale, maybe bringing your knee in towards your chest. Inhale, extend. Exhale, knee might come in towards your chest. Option to extend the right arm if you'd like to add an extra movement. Inhale, extend arm and leg away from each other. Exhale, bringing your knee towards your elbow. Choosing either variation if you'd like. Moving the arm and leg, maybe extending them and bringing the knee towards the elbow, or moving the leg by itself, extending and bringing the knee in towards the chest. Taking another moment or two to experiment with this movement. And in your own time, maybe doing one more in both directions before bringing your hand and leg back down to the floor. Whenever you're ready, maybe finding your child shape, you might keep the knees together, maybe bringing the knees wide, starting to sit your hips back towards your feet, and maybe extending the arms out in front of your body. You might choose to bring your head down towards the mat. Maybe your head rests on the mat, taking a few breaths in this shape, in your child shape. In your own time, maybe slowly walking your hands over to the right side of your mat. You might extend the left arm a little bit further than the right, pausing in this side stretch. Maybe noticing a sensation in your left side body. And in your own time, maybe coming back to center and possibly walking your hands to the left side of your mat. Maybe reaching the right arm a little further than the left. Possibly noticing a stretch in your right side body this time, taking a few moments on this side of the shape. In your own time, making your way back to center whenever you're ready. And taking another moment or two to pause in your child shape. And in your own time, maybe slowly making your way back to your hands and knees. If you'd like, you might choose to make your way to your downward dog. Hands might stay where they are, or you might bring them slightly forward, maybe pressing your toes into the mat and straightening your knees, bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. Finding your downward dog and maybe adding movement in this shape. You might choose to bend one knee and then the other, maybe walking your dog in place, maybe choosing to move your hips from side to side. Finding any movement or stillness you might like in your downward dog. And in your own time, maybe bringing both feet back to center before lowering your knees back down to the floor. Maybe bringing your hands back in underneath your shoulders if they're not already there. And in your own time, maybe bringing your right foot in between your hands. So you might choose to pause here if you have blocks or books. You might bring your hands to rest on those to give you a little height in this shape. Taking a moment or two in your kneeling lunge, and if you'd like, maybe starting to add some movements. You might start to walk your hands forward. Maybe your hips start to follow. And in your own time, maybe walking backward, making this movement as big or as small as you might like. Maybe you pause here. Maybe you're able to sit down on your left foot. Finding whatever movement or stillness you might like. Maybe finding one place and pausing there for a few moments. So if you'd like, experimenting with adding movement or stillness into this shape, making any movement as big or as small as you might like. Taking your time and possibly noticing how each part of the shape might feel in your body. Taking another moment or two to experiment with this shape. And whenever you're ready, coming back to center. Bringing yourself back to that kneeling shape and possibly bringing your arms up overhead. You might gaze in front of you, maybe relaxing your shoulders a little bit. Possibly finding balance in this shape. Taking a moment or two here, and whenever you're ready, maybe bringing your hands back down to the mat. If you'd like, maybe bringing your left hand to the mat or to a block or book if you have one. And then maybe reaching your right arm up towards the sky so that your gaze is over the right side of your mat into a gentle twist. Taking a moment or two in this shape. And in your own time, maybe lowering your right hand back down to the mat. If you'd like, possibly walking your right foot out towards the right edge of your mat and maybe bringing the right hand and the left hand on the inside of the right foot. You might choose to stay here in your lizard. Another choice might be to bring your forearms to the mat, or if you do have a block or book, you might bring your hands or forearms to rest on that. Maybe pausing in any of those variations if you'd like. If you also notice your right hip opening to the side, you might lift your right foot up off the floor slightly, finding whatever movement or stillness you might like in your body. Maybe letting yourself release any tension in this shape, noticing where you might be holding that tension in your body, and on each exhale, possibly releasing it from your body. Finding whatever variation works in your body, and whenever you're ready, finding a moment or two to pause, and then slowly coming out of this shape, maybe bringing the right foot back to the floor if it was lifted up off the floor, bringing your hands back to the mat if they're not already there, and maybe moving any props aside. And then if you'd like, maybe bringing your right knee to meet the left back in your table shape with your knees underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders. Maybe finding your thread the needle. If you'd like, maybe raising your right arm up overhead, and in your own time, maybe bringing your right arm behind your left wrist, bringing the right shoulder and head down to the floor. Option to stay here, or if you'd like, you might walk your left hand towards the front of your mat. Pausing in this shape for a moment or two. And if you have a block or book, you might bring your shoulder to rest on that as well. Finding Whatever might feel right in your body, taking a moment or two in this space. And if you'd like, starting to walk your left hand back towards your head, pressing it into the floor. Maybe reaching the right arm back up overhead and then back down to the mat. In your own time, maybe finding your downward dog. You might keep your hands where they are, maybe bringing them slightly forward. And in your own time, pressing your feet into the mat and straightening your knees, bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. Finding a moment or two in this shape, maybe adding movement once again, or maybe choosing to be still. In your own time, bringing your feet back to center and lowering your knees back to the floor, moving into the other side whenever you're ready, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders if they're not already there, and then bringing the left foot in between your hands. Finding your kneeling lunge, maybe bringing your hands on top of blocks or books on either side of your left foot. In your own time, maybe pausing in this shape or starting to add movement. You might start to walk the hands forward, maybe the hips follow. And then in your own time, you might start to walk the hands behind you, maybe bringing the hips along with you, making this movement as big or as small as you might like. Finding any stillness that you might like as well, maybe taking a moment to pause in one shape or another. Allowing yourself to experiment with a big or small movement, or maybe any stillness, finding any places in the shape where you might like to pause. In your own time, maybe doing one more movement or taking another moment or two wherever you are before making your way back to center, back to that neutral shape. And in your own time, if you'd like, maybe raising your arms up overhead. You might start to rest your shoulders where they are, keeping your gaze in front of you, finding a few moments for balance in this shape. In your own time, maybe bringing both hands back down to the mat and maybe bringing the right hand to the mat or block or book. You might start to reach the left arm up towards the ceiling. Maybe your gaze is over the left side of your mat. Taking a moment or two in this place, noticing how this shape might feel in your body. And then in your own time, maybe lowering your left hand back down to the mat and finding your lizard shape on the other side. Maybe walking the left foot to the left edge of the mat. Maybe both hands come on the inside of the left leg. One choice might be to stay here. You might choose to bring your forearms down to the mat. Or if you have a block or a book, you might bring your hands to rest on that or the forearms to rest on that as well. Another choice might be to open your left hip by maybe bringing that left foot up off the floor slightly, finding any variation you might like in this shape and pausing in this place, maybe noticing where you might be holding any tension and allowing yourself to let go of any tension you might be feeling. Letting each exhale release a little bit more. Taking a few more moments in this shape, maybe noticing, maybe letting your head hang. In your own time, slowly coming back to center, maybe bringing your left foot back to the mat if it is not already there. Maybe bringing your hands to the mat, moving any props aside, and bringing the left leg to meet the right, back in your table shape. You might bring both hands to rest underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, And moving into your thread the needle on the other side, maybe lifting the left arm up overhead, inhale. And on your exhale, you might choose to bring the left hand behind the right wrist, maybe bringing the left shoulder and head down to the floor or a block or a book if you have one. And then you might choose to walk the right hand towards the front of your mat, maybe pausing in this shape for a moment or two, or possibly finding another modification that feels right in your body. Taking a breath or two in this shape. And in your own time, maybe starting to walk your right hand back towards your head and maybe pressing your right hand back into the mat. You might raise and lower the left arm one more time. Coming back to this shape and moving into your puppy shape. So you might keep your hips where they are, possibly starting to walk your hands forward. Maybe your head makes its way down to the floor. Making sure your neck is long in this shape. Taking a few breaths to pause. Maybe noticing any changes in your body. Finding how your body might feel in this moment. And in your own time, slowly making yourself back to your table, finding your way back to table, and moving into your downward dog. So maybe extending your hands a little farther from where they were or keeping them in table. And then pressing your toes into the mat, straightening your knees and bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. Finding movement or stillness in this shape once again. Taking a moment or two to notice how this shape might feel in your body. And in your own time, maybe bending your knees. If you'd like, you can look towards the front of your mat and maybe slowly walking towards your hands, finding your way to a forward fold in this shape. Maybe bringing your opposite hand to opposite elbow into ragdoll. You might let your head hang, maybe shaking your head yes and no a few times. Maybe rocking from side to side in this shape. Finding any movement or stillness in your ragdoll forward fold if you'd like. And finding any other variations with the arms. If you'd like to move your arms in any other shape. In your own time, maybe slowly coming back to center, maybe lowering your hands down. And whenever you're ready, making your way to a standing shape, maybe bringing your head up last. Finding your way to standing in your own time. And maybe noticing how you're standing. If you'd like, you might start to rock from the balls of your feet to your heels, maybe moving back and forth. Noticing how your standing shape feels. Maybe making this movement smaller and smaller with each back and forth. Eventually making your way to stand on both feet. Does this feel more even? Does it feel more grounded? Maybe it feels more wobbly. Finding whatever shows up for you in your standing shape. And maybe taking a moment to really ground your feet into the floor. You might imagine a string pulling your head and spine up towards the ceiling so that your body, you might imagine, is being pulled in two directions, up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. Taking a moment or two in this shape. And whenever you're ready, letting that go. If you have a blanket or cushion on your mat, maybe moving that to the side. We'll find our way into a few lunges in our standing shape. Coming back to your standing shape if you're not already there. Inhaling, arms come up overhead, moving into a gentle back bend. Head and chest look up towards the ceiling. Making your way back to center and lowering your hands down by your sides. Finding your warrior one. Bringing the left leg behind you, the toes pointing towards the front of your mat, heel is on or off the floor. Right leg is facing towards the front of your mat. Knee is bent, keeping your knee in line with your ankle. So, not letting your knee go past your ankle. You want to make sure you see your big toe. Hips are squared towards the front of your mat. And in your own time, reaching your arms up overhead. Taking a few breaths in this shape and noticing how your body feels in this shape. Maybe noticing if there's any discomfort. If anything hurts, please do come out of any shape that we do today. Finding whatever you might feel in your warrior one. And in your own time, moving into your warrior two, you might bring your right hand forward, left hand behind you, and maybe that left foot extends a little further, bringing it parallel to the back of your mat. Keeping your right knee bent, gaze might be on your right arm, relaxing your shoulders and pausing in your warrior two for a few moments. Maybe noticing how this shape feels in your body. Noticing if it feels any different from warrior one. Maybe it feels the same. If you'd like, pausing here, or you might choose to add some movement, maybe bringing the left hand gently to rest on your back leg. Right arm might move up towards the ceiling. Finding a pause in this shape if you'd like, and in your own time, maybe starting to bring your forearm to your upper right leg. Maybe the left arm reaches up overhead into side angle. Taking a pause in this shape if you'd like, and maybe moving back and forth. So you might choose to pause in one shape or the other, or you might choose to move from one shape to the other. Allowing yourself to listen to your body and find what comes up for you today. In your own time, maybe slowly making your way back to your warrior two. And maybe lowering your hands down, slowly bringing both feet to the front of your mat. So finding the front of your mat in your own time. Maybe bringing both feet so that they're hip width apart. And moving into a balancing shape, bringing all your weight to your right leg to start. Hands might be by your sides or maybe at your hips. And in your own time, maybe starting to bend your left knee. Toes might stay on the floor, or you might choose to lift and lower the left leg a few times. Maybe pausing if you'd like to find your balance, or maybe making this a continuous movement with your left leg lifting up and off the floor a few times. Option to keep the left toes on the floor as well. So, really finding whatever choice might feel right in your body. Taking another moment or two to experiment with this shape. And then, whenever you're ready, maybe bringing your left leg back down to the floor, lowering your hands down. Inhaling, reaching your arms up overhead, maybe bringing your palms to touch. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and in your own time, maybe moving your upper body over to the right side. If you'd like, inhaling back to center. And on your exhale, maybe moving over to the left side. Inhaling back to center, possibly doing that 2 more times. Moving to the right in your own time. Back to center, moving to the left. In your own time, coming back to center, over to the right one last time. Back to center and maybe over to the left. Finding your way to center whenever you're ready. Lowering your hands down and maybe bringing all your weight to your right leg one more time. Hands might be palms touching in front of your chest or maybe at your hips once again. And this time, maybe bringing the left heel so that it's resting against the right ankle. You might choose to pause in this shape, or if you'd like, you might make your way into tree, bringing your left foot to rest anywhere on your right leg, above or below your knee. So keeping your left leg anywhere above or below your right knee. Maybe start to grow your branches if this balancing shape feels okay for you. Finding a spot in front of your body to focus your gaze on, maybe extending your arms up towards the ceiling. And knowing that if you find a balance, or even if you don't, that's part of our yoga practice. So you might fall over, and that is okay. Maybe adding movement in this shape. If you'd like, you can pretend it's a windy day and move your arms around, or maybe finding a stillness in this shape. Letting go of your tree shape whenever you're ready, maybe bringing your arms and leg down, maybe shaking arms and legs out a little bit. Bringing both feet so that they're parallel once more, hip width apart. Moving into your chair. You might even bring both feet so that they're touching. Finding whichever variation you might like with your feet, possibly bringing your arms up overhead and maybe bending your knees, sitting your hips back in an imaginary chair. Maybe adding movement, you might start to bend and straighten your knees a few times. Finding movement or stillness in your chair shape. Taking another moment or two to experiment in this shape. And whenever you're ready, straightening your legs and bringing your arms down, maybe shaking that out one more time. Bringing both feet so that they're parallel once again. Inhaling, reaching the arms up overhead if you'd like, and maybe coming into a gentle back bend. Head and chest look up towards the ceiling, and then coming back to center in your own time, lowering your hands down. Maybe moving into your warrior one on the other side. You might bring the right foot behind you, toes pointing towards the front of your mat, knee or heel is up or on the floor. Left leg is pointing towards the front of your mat, knee is bent and in line with your ankle, making sure you can see your big toe, and then maybe reaching your arms up overhead into your full warrior one. Resting your shoulders, pausing in this shape for a few breaths. And noticing how this shape feels in your body. In your own time. Maybe moving into your warrior two, you might start to bring your left hand forward, right arm behind you, and maybe readjusting your right foot, making sure it's parallel to the back of your mat. Gaze might be on your left hand, pausing in your warrior two for a few moments, maybe resting your shoulders, letting go of any tension in your body. Pausing in this shape if you'd like, or you might choose to add some movement, maybe gently bringing your right hand to rest on your right leg, maybe bringing the left arm up overhead into reverse warrior. You might choose to pause in this shape, or if you'd like, you might choose to move forward into your side angle, maybe bringing your left forearm to rest on your upper left leg. Maybe the right hand comes up over your head. Maybe your right hand is there. Finding this shape, maybe pausing for a moment or two. And if you'd like, adding movement, maybe moving back and forth from one shape to the other, or maybe finding one shape to pause in for a few moments. Really allowing yourself to experiment with adding movement or maybe adding stillness. Taking another moment or two with movement or stillness, and in your own time, making your way back to warrior two. Maybe lowering your hands down, slowly bringing both feet to the front of your mat. And maybe bringing both feet so that they're parallel. Finding your balancing shape on the other side. Maybe bringing all your weight to your left leg. Hands might be at your hips, or maybe they're up overhead. And then maybe bending your right knee. You might keep the right toes on the floor, maybe experimenting with lifting and lowering the right leg a few times, bending the knee in towards your chest and lowering it back down towards the floor. Or maybe lifting your right knee and pausing in this balance. You might find a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on, experimenting with any movement or stillness in this balancing shape. Taking another moment or two in this place and then lowering your right foot back down to the floor, maybe shaking arms and legs out a little bit. Bringing your feet back to meet each other, hip width apart, and maybe inhaling the arms up overhead, bringing the palms to touch. If you'd like, inhale, lengthening the spine towards the ceiling, maybe on the exhale, moving over to the left side. Inhale back to center. Maybe exhale over to the right. If you'd like, possibly doing that twice more. Moving over to the left side in your own time, then making your way to the right side. And whenever you're ready, doing that one more time, moving to the left and maybe to the right and back to center, lowering your hands down by your sides. Maybe moving into your tree shape. If you'd like, bringing all of your weight to your left leg, hands might be at your hips or maybe palms or touching in front of your chest. Maybe bringing the right heel to rest against the left ankle. You might choose to stay here, or if you'd like, you might choose to bring the right foot to rest on the left leg, anywhere above or below the knee. Finding anywhere above or below the knee to rest your right foot, and maybe balancing in this shape or keeping the right toes on the floor. Maybe finding a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on. If the balancing feels okay, you might extend your arms up towards the ceiling. Maybe experimenting with adding movement by pretending it's a windy day, or maybe choosing to be still. Knowing that if you fall out of your balance, you can always get right back into it, and that your balance will never be the same on any given day. Some days might be better than others, but any balance is what you're striving for, and giving yourself love no matter what happens. In your own time, letting all of that go, bring your leg down, arms come down, maybe shaking arms and legs out a little bit more. Finding your way back to your standing shape and moving into your chair shape one more time. Feet might be hip width apart, or maybe they're touching. Maybe arms reach up overhead, and maybe bending your knees, sitting your hips back. You might pause in this shape. And if you'd like, starting to hinge forward, coming into your forward fold. Letting yourself pause here, maybe coming to your ragdoll, opposite hand to opposite elbow. Hands might reach behind your ankles for another choice. And maybe adding movement, moving from side to side, or shaking the head yes and no if you'd like. Finding any movement or stillness, finding any shape that might feel right in your body, and in your own time coming back to center and slowly starting to make your way to seated. Finding your way to a seated shape in your own time, and maybe bringing the bottoms of your feet together whenever you're ready. If you have blocks or books, you might choose to bring them underneath your knees while your feet are touching, the bottoms of your feet are touching. Or you might choose not to have blocks, finding whatever feels right in your body. Maybe once again, letting that string pull your head and spine up towards the ceiling, finding length in your bound angle shape. And if you'd like, pausing in this shape, or you might choose to walk your hands forward. Again, always allowing yourself the option to add movement. So if you'd like, you might choose to walk your hands forward and back a few times. Finding any choice that you might like, adding movement with your hands, moving forward and back, maybe finding a forward fold or a seated shape. Taking a few more moments in this shape, experimenting with it in any way that you might like. And then in your own time, maybe slowly coming back to seated. If you're not already there, you might choose to bring both hands underneath your knees, maybe bringing your knees towards each other, and in your own time, extending your legs out in front of your body. Maybe shaking your knees, bending and straightening your knees a few times in this shape. And in your own time, maybe inhaling, reaching your arms up overhead. And on your exhale, you might choose to fold forward, letting your hands fall wherever feels right for you. Maybe your hands rest on your upper legs, maybe your lower legs, or maybe you're able to touch your toes. Finding a few breaths in your forward fold, taking a moment or two in this place. And whenever you're ready, in your own time, maybe slowly making your way to seated. Eventually finding your way to lie on your back whenever you're ready. Moving any blocks or books aside if you'd like, and finding your way to lie on your back. Maybe taking a moment or two to notice how you're resting in this place. And if you'd like, maybe bending your knees. You might choose to bring your feet to rest on the mat. Maybe bringing the right ankle to rest on your left upper leg. And you might choose to pause here, maybe finding a moment or two in this shape, or maybe bringing your hands behind your left leg, keeping both feet flexed if you'd like, and pausing on this side for a moment or two. And then in your own time, lowering both legs back down to the floor and maybe finding the other side. You might choose to bring your left ankle to rest on your upper right leg, maybe pausing in this shape, maybe choosing to bring your hands behind your right leg, finding your flexed feet if you're in this shape, and pausing on this side for a moment or two as well. In your own time, lowering both feet back down to the mat and finding your rest in your own time. Maybe keeping your knees bent, maybe extending your legs long down your mat. You might choose to keep your hands resting on another part of your body, or maybe your hands might rest by your sides. Possibly closing your eyes or keeping a soft gaze in front of you and allowing yourself to sink into the mat. Maybe imagining that your body is goo or jelly and allowing your body to sink into the mat as much as feels available to you. Maybe letting go of any tension that you might feel in your body. And maybe starting to notice how your feet might be resting on the floor. Do they feel the same as one another? Do they feel slightly different? And without judgment, without changing anything, maybe noticing how your feet are resting. Slowly making your way up your body, maybe noticing how each of your legs is resting in this moment. Are both legs resting in the same way? Are they resting a little different from one another? Maybe parts of your legs are resting on the floor, and maybe parts of your legs are not resting on the floor. Finding how your hips are resting in your own time, maybe noticing if one or both your hips feel the same or a little different from one another. Maybe bringing your attention to your lower back. And if you'd like, you might bring one hand underneath your lower back, maybe noticing if you have a curve there or if you don't. You might notice that your lower back is resting on the mat, or maybe it's not. Taking a moment to be aware of what your lower back might be doing. And in your own time, slowly bringing your attention up to your middle back, maybe noticing if you can feel your ribs. Maybe bringing your attention eventually to your shoulders and noticing how your upper back is resting. Are your shoulders resting on the floor, or maybe are parts of them resting not on the floor? Allowing yourself to observe how your lower and middle and upper back is resting in this moment, and in your own time, making your attention move to your arms and maybe noticing how your arms and your hands are resting. Are they resting on the floor, or maybe they're resting on another part of your body? Taking a few moments to notice how your arms might be resting in this moment. And if you'd like, maybe bringing your attention to your head and your neck, and you might choose to move your head from side to side. Maybe noticing if your head seems to choose one side over the other might feel a little more accessible moving from one side than the other. In your own time, letting that go whenever you're ready. And maybe taking a moment to notice how your whole body is resting. Does one side of your body feel a little different than the other? Or maybe both sides of your body feel the same. Taking a few moments to notice your whole body and possibly noticing how your whole body is resting in this moment. If you'd like, I'll be quiet for the next 2 minutes of class. So feel free to move in any way that you might like during that time, or feel free to use that time to be still. Finding whatever you might need in the next 2 minutes of silence. In your own time. Whenever you're ready, maybe slowly starting to bring some small movements into your body. You might choose to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Another choice might be to move your wrists and ankles in circles. Or if you'd like, you might choose to bring your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. Taking your time, adding any movement you might like in your body. And maybe choosing to roll to one side, maybe taking a moment or two in that shape. And whenever you're ready, maybe slowly starting to make your way back to a seated shape, making your way there in your own time. And if you'd like, maybe bringing your palms together in front of your chest. May the light within me honor the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me today. My name is Kristin O'Donnell. Thank you, Hands to Heart Center and Boston Public Library for offering this class. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening.